Hi, welcome to Life Off Script. This is episode 1, season 1. And today we're diving into something that's totally been life-changing for me, which has been moving overseas. If you can't tell by my not so subtle accent, I am Australian. I'm from a town outside of Melbourne, in the west, and I moved to London. Shock horror. I will be just talking about my decision to move overseas and how I got there and how I felt over the whole period. It's only been 18 months, but I've got some things to say. And if you're interested in more, I can definitely do some more practical episodes maybe on like what to prepare before you move somewhere. I mean, my experience is London, so I think I'll just speak on that. Like, it's going to include a lot of other things, but I did want to start it off with this because when I was prepping for London, I really didn't find much information that was current, that was from a 20-year-old's perspective, that wasn't just like TikToks and little things here and there. I really wanted like a real in-depth chat about it, and I think I want to provide that for the people that are considering moving, because I think at the end of the day, this is what I would have loved to have had. So, a lot of London stuff, but there will be other stuff once I just get through all of this. Yeah, okay. So, I have always wanted to move overseas. Ever since I was very little, I'd wanted to study exchange, but the idea of going overseas and then having to be in your flat, in your home, studying when you could be exploring was really, it didn't appeal to me. to be frank, it did not appeal to me. So, and I was a bit of a goody two shoes as well, so I never really wanted to go and then come back and have to catch up on whatever all my friends had learnt while I was away. So, never did an exchange, and then never did a uni exchange. And then I got the idea in 2019 to move to London. Now, this meant that my going away party was early 2020. Now, if you think, oh, I'm triggered by 2020, you would be correct. That is the year of COVID. And it's the year that I held a going away party and then never left. So the going away party was held on, and I remember this vividly, it's so cringe, was held in March 2020. I think it was about like 12th of 13th of March. And of course, it's all very sad, happy. A lot of people are there saying goodbyes. Now that I think about it, it's just killing me. And my flight was booked for the 23rd of March. And the lockdown came into effect, I think it was a few days after the going away party, kind of came out of nowhere. We thought it was just a China problem. It kind of, you could see it was kind of moving around, but we were all just like, oh yeah, Australia's fine. No, we got into lockdown, and I had a going away party that just did not come to fruition. Like, I actually cannot deal with myself. So 2020 is not only triggering in terms of COVID, but I also was meant to move and then I never did. Because like, why would you want to move when it's like COVID? Oh my God, yeah. And one of the guys that I was seeing at the time was like, oh, if I were you, I would have gone. Sorry. I cancelled because everyone's health is at risk, mate. What would have done? I would have come to England, been like, oh, everyone's in lockdown, can't travel, can't find a new job because there's no jobs, everything is shut down, everyone's miserable, everyone's moved back to their families. Oh yeah, that sounds like a fucking right laugh. Love that. That sounds like the best time ever. Anyway, so funny that he said that. In hindsight, I'm like, that is a really dumb thing to say to me. But anyway, I was really sad because I had deferred my uni. I had I'd quit my job. I had organized accommodation, organized my new job in London. It was all went up in smoke. So a bit traumatized by that. And then I read this book, and it was called Big Idea by Elizabeth something or other. Actually, do you know what? I'll just Google it. Hang on. Okay, I'm back, and it's called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Anyway, it's kind of a spiritual book. I only read the first 5 chapters though, so take that as you will. I really loved a theory that she mentioned, which is the idea that ideas come to you, like creative ideas will come to you at certain points in time and only for a period of time. And you don't know how long that will be. So you might be like, oh, I have suddenly this like massive motivation to start painting again, start oil painting, or to start cooking, and I want to start a cookbook, or I want to do this, or I want to move, right? And you only have it for a certain amount of time before it leaves you, and it will go to another person. And that actually scared me a lot, because I was like, that's actually how I felt. Like, I was like, sometimes ideas will come to me and then they'll vanish. And I'm like, who the fuck took that? But, I mean, I don't think anyone actually took it from me. But, based on her book, someone has taken it from me. So, with that in mind, I was like, okay, if I finish my studies and the idea still remains, then I'll move. So I finished my studies. It's niggling in the back of my brain, and I'm like, oh God, I should do it, but when's the right time? When's the right time? And of course, I go on a date in 2021. We go to the Vic Market, which is, if you're not from Melbourne, it's the Queen Victoria Market. They have this like night market. It's got some food trucks and bits and bobs, and it's actually a vibe. Highly recommend it. I went there on a date, and we go past this psychic, and I love psychics. I love woo-woo. I love all of that. I'm very into all the witchy stuff. So his name is, and if I remember correctly, Matt Dragonstone. And I actually love that name so much. So I sit down with him, and he's like, okay, I think it was, I saw him in May or something like that. May 2021. He's like, you're deciding on a massive move overseas. And I was like, how does he know that? Anyway, he was like, you're going to make your decision in November this year, and then you'll move next year overseas. And I'm like, okay, so specific, like, the heck. Anyway, I forget all about it because the date went well, but I never saw that guy again. Forget all about it, and I'm like still umming and ahhing about moving and when in practice is the right time to move. And just a hint, there is no right time to move. There is no right time to move. You have to just make it work for you. That's what people say. Oh, I'm waiting for the right time to move. I'm waiting for, I'm waiting for all these sort of dominoes to line up. No, that's not how it works. That's actually not how it works. You make those dominoes line up, babe, not the other way around. Anyway, I digress. I forget about it, and then in November, I'm like, you know what, I'm moving. And I completely had forgotten about Matt Dragonstone and his prophecy that he gave me. And I decided to move, and then I was like, yep, I'm moving. I mentioned it to my friends. One of my best friends, Kira, was like, yep, I'll come with you. Okay, great. So we started planning in January, and then we eventually moved May 2023. And we traveled for 5 weeks, and then we moved fully in July. Now, this is probably a contentious topic, but I think the best time to move is when I moved, which was July, because you will travel for a bit, and then you land in London, let's say July, August, September. You find a flat right before academic year starts in September. So you get like a rental property before all the students come in and like take them from you. Genuinely, we'll take them from right under your nose. And then by that time, it comes into autumn. And autumn is a vibe in London. Like, it's beautiful. It's cold, sure, but it's got a charm to it for autumn. You know what I mean? And so then you've got like maybe a few weekend trips, like you go Cotswolds or Lake District or Kent or Cornwall or whatever. Or you even just travel overseas. So easy to now. You can just go wherever. For instance, I went to Copenhagen last autumn for just like a week because why not? And then it comes up to Christmas. So all of this is like in the first 6 months. And I always highly recommend going somewhere for the Christmas markets, like end of November, start of December. For instance, I think my first year I went to Berlin, and Berlin have fabulous Christmas markets. Did that, and then of course London in the lead up to Christmas is iconic, so fun, so many markets, so many things to do. It has a truly Christmas spirit that I feel like Australia can't really grasp, and I fear that might just be because of the weather. So having that is just like amazing. And then of course you've got Christmas, and there are a lot of Aussies in London, obviously. So I just feel like by that time, by 6 months, you'll have made enough friends that those who aren't going back to Australia for Christmas will want to stay, and then you do something with them. Or travel somewhere. Like I have a few friends that went to Romania, or I mean, you can just go anywhere, really, can't you? I think that's really good because otherwise you're gonna feel so lonely at Christmas. Like regardless of where you are, if you don't go back to Australia, you're gonna feel really lonely. And I think it's nicer to be in London only after 6 months doing this holiday than starting at the start of the year and going to London when it's fucking dead cold, freezing, everyone's miserable. Then by the time it comes to holidays, you're like, I need to get back to Australia because otherwise I'll combust. And so you just spend all your money, go back to Australia for the holidays. It's just, I don't know. I don't recommend it. I think the best way is arriving in July. So yeah, that's my just random side note. Please don't come to London in the winter because you will hate it. I don't know one person that was happy that they moved in January, February, even March. March is cold. I just don't think it's worth it because you'll get here and then you'll be like, it's so cold, I want to travel, but you've got no money because you have to save it up for renting and finding a job, and it's mayhem. So you might as well do it when it's like summer, everyone's happy. Life is just easier in summer in London. Anyway, that's my little hot take. Okay, back to the topic at hand. Moving was very scary. I think what's scary about moving before you actually leave is quitting your job. I think that's terrifying, and I think that's what prevents a lot of people from moving over, which I totally get. And then on the other hand, I think when you move, the scary bit is not knowing how things work. And when I say that, I mean like it's like you have to rewire your brain on everything you've known and what life is like now. Not understanding the processes for certain things that you just always inherently knew by living in your hometown or wherever you lived. For instance, I think people take for granted how much they just know based on growing up in an area or growing up with your friends and your family. And I know this sounds like I'm butchering it, but I mean like you'll come here and you'll be like, cool, so this is how the post office works, and it's just not how it works over here. And then you'll be like, oh, okay, so then if this happens, this is what I have to do. But I'm like, no, that's not how it works in the UK. Like, you need to do it a different way, for instance. And a good example is registering for the GP. In Australia, you could go to any old GP you wanted and see them. It doesn't matter who. It doesn't matter where you go. In the UK, you can only go to a GP once you've got a permanent place. So that's number one. Number two, you need to register with one GP based on your area, like your residence. And if that GP ain't available for 4 weeks, then you're not getting a booking in for 4 weeks. And then that's why we get so many people call the ambulance, because a lot of the time they just can't get into the regular GP. So it's like just little things that you're like, oh, I took that for granted in Australia. I wouldn't have thought of that, but it's just little things that are a bit different over here. And but that's the beauty of like moving somewhere different, is you just never know, and you kind of, it takes you a while to figure things out, but it makes you learn different ways of living, which I think is really good for you. So I moved in July to London, and the way I got around my scaries for moving overseas and uprooting your whole life is to have a different mindset. So my mindset was, think of it as a long holiday. So 3-month holiday. And then when it hits 3 months, just be like, just another 3 months holiday, really. And then you hit the 6-month mark, and like up to 6 months, you're a tourist living in a place that you're now trying to call home. It's really confusing. You're doing touristy things, but you're buying permanent stuff. So like, for instance, you're going to see Big Ben, of course, iconic, the museums, you're doing things like that. And then you're like, yep, that's fine. But now I've paid a deposit for a flat, or I have bought furniture or bed covers, like doonas, all this sort of stuff for my flat. Those are the things that kind of come up that are confusing. Then you move into the 6-month mark. This checkpoint is like a genuine Mario Super Bros checkpoint. So something happens at 6-month checkpoint and you realize, oh, fuck, I live here. I'm not a tourist. I live here. I'm a baby to living here. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't know shit, but I live here. And it's a very weird experience because it goes from holiday to lifestyle. And so then you have to think of ways to make life fun in London, because you probably have a big job then. And so you don't just live here, but you've got to work here. You've got a job. You've got colleagues, British colleagues. You've got British friends. You've got a new normal that you have to embrace. Like, you start going out more. You've got confidence to know where things are going, what the public transport's like, what's happening in the city. You start to find a rhythm, really. And you start to discover what your favorite cafes are, what your favorite restaurants are, pubs, of course, where your grocery shop, where all your friends live and how fast it takes for you to get to them. I felt like the biggest scare was not booking things, but quitting your job. I think quitting your job is really scary, especially when you're in a good job, when you love your boss, when you love your colleagues, when you're in a position where you think, wow, if I stay here, I can see my career trajectory and it's looking bright, it's looking positive. Of course, that's scary. Of course, that's scary. Of course. Why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't it be? If you're in a really great position at work and you don't know what the work conditions are going to be like in London, of course that's scary. For me, I was in a good job, but I don't know, people kept saying to me, oh, you should stay in your job, or like stay in Australia and kind of move your career upwards. I'm 25. I don't give a fuck about that right now. I want to live my life, and this idea will niggle at the back of my brain until I fucking die. I need to basically jump on it now. Gut feeling, I knew I needed to do it. So the scariest bit is putting in your resignation letter. I think for me, that's the scariest bit. It's the scariest bit of going, okay, I'm going to halt this career progression that I'm doing. I'm going to halt my life and all the good things about my life. I'm going to halt it. And I'm going to be like, okay, let's pause that and let me just dip out of here for 2 to 3 years. And I'll come back to you when I'm much older and we'll see. We'll pick up where we left. Will we? No, probably not. So it is scary. It's massive. But we live on a floating rock, and if you're not doing things that make you happy, what is the fucking point? All in all, moving to London was a long process, I would say. It was an idea that brewed in my mind for a very long time, and I think that's something to consider when you're deciding that for yourself is how long are you willing to let that idea lie in your head for? Are you willing to let it lie in your head for a year, 2 years, 3, a decade, 20 years, 30 years? Who knows? I don't think it's smart to let it linger for long. I don't think it is. And I think, I'm personally in my late 20s, so I feel like I can speak on doing things in your 20s, and this is the transformative decade. I can speak on being 27. I've done, 75% of my 20s already. And I just know that this is the time to do things, to try new things out, to experience change. You can get familiarity, you can get comfortable when you're 30, 40, 50, 60. So there is all those years that you have to be comfortable. Do whatever you feel like doing, but that's my experience. And like I said, I'll probably be providing a few more episodes on what to prepare for London when moving, the first 4 weeks of London, the identity crisis that I had last year living in London, which I feel like is a rite of passage, and just other bits and bobs that I've been dealing with as a single 27-year-old Australian in London. But thanks for tuning in, and I hope this gives some insight into why I decided to move and what pushed me to move. If you find that relatable, great. If not, thanks for listening anyway. Okay, new episode will be coming soon.